Alright, howdy folks. Welcome back to Top Comics Pressing. Before we get started with the CGC unboxing here, which I just got back from Florida, so I'm very excited about this. Nice and sealed up box here. But before I get started with this, I do want to make a plea for you. While you are watching, please just click that little subscribe button. It's right there. It's right there, right below the video. You just click it. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps me out a lot. It helps promote the channel, and it makes sure you get notified when I post a new video. Please just click the subscribe, and then right next to it is the little thumbs up button. So wait until about halfway through the video and then give me a just hit the thumbs up, please. All right, so that's my plea here before we get going. Let's see here. What do we got in the box? We have 10 modern comics in the box. This is a CGC modern submission. All of these had gotten some work beyond a press. So all of them had some kind of issue. And more than that, a lot of them had been prior CGC submissions. So I posted a video on how I was packing this, as well as what the reasons were for submitting everything. So I'm not going to go all the way through it, but I will hopefully just describe the book as I recall it here when I pop it on out. But we're going to go from a slab I was bold enough to crack, a 9.6, all the way down here to what was a 2.5 copy. Now, a 2.5 modern is pretty rough, so we're going to have to follow up and see what's on there. And so I'm going to spread these out just so I can see what's all going on here as much as possible. And these are a lot of really modern keys, so I'm pretty excited to see how we do here with this particular one. And all right, so let's just get going. I use the scissors. I know somebody made fun of me for that last time, but whatever. I've got them handy, and they always work pretty well. Now I've got my tags kind of spread out. So we've got a little bit of cardboard there. First one up, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Now I probably should have gone to this one first here, because this is the prior 9.6 that I took out. And I actually had a video of me both assessing this slab beforehand and cracking it and talking about why I thought it would get a good bump. But if you'll notice, that did go from a 9.6 to a 9.8, which on this book is quite epic. This is a newsstand copy from 1981, first appearance of Firestar. And for those of you that watched cartoons back in the 80s, you could not get better than Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So that was pretty awesome. All right, next up here, at least, so I have all my labels here in the order in which I submitted them, so hopefully CGC has them in the same order here. But the next one up here is a Spectacular Spider-Man 7.5. So this is one that I had submitted, and I was quite bummed out because I was aiming for a 9.6, and you can see that in the prior unboxing video. And it came back a 7.5 because of some very light interior staining. So obviously I couldn't let that 7.5 stand, particularly because I am a huge fan of this cover. It actually came out the same month I was born, and I think it looks awesome. And the new CGC grade is 9.6. So that looks like one heck of a bumpski right there, from a 7.5 to a 9.6. So let's count that. 7.5 to 8, 8.5, 9, 9.2, 9.4, 9.6. That is a 6-point bump. Going from a 7.5 to a 9.6. We got white pages on this, which is absolutely gorgeous, and I could not be thrilled enough. Now, I will point out in the video showing me packing these and discussing, I didn't think that this was actually going to get a 9.6 because it has just a little bit of itty-bitty corner wear right there, and it has a little bit of edge wear right here. And sometimes they take off for that, and sometimes they don't. In this case, they were quite generous and gave me the 9.6 grade I was after. Very excited, very cool about that. So that one is pretty awesome. All right, the next one up here is a comic I bought from a local comic shop. I paid fair market value for this book, so I think it was $200-ish, $225, $230, somewhere in there. But it is an Uncanny X-Men number 266, and it was previously graded a 9.2 by CGC. You'll notice the old label here. And I bought this book because it was remarkably well cut. So for those of you that are X-Men fans or Gambit fans and have gone shopping for a copy of Uncanny X-Men number 266, it is a notoriously miscut and miswrapped book, and it is very hard to get one that is perfectly square. And so I figured even if this book did not bump in grade, at least it was going to be a really nice copy. So let's see how I did on this one. Pull it on out here. This is now a 9.6 there. Whoop. There we go. And so this is a 9.2 to 9.6 grade bump. I correctly predicted that, and I think I correctly predicted the reason it's not a 9.8 is because there's two very, very small spine ticks right there. So that's a little disappointing, but all in all, a 9.6 newsstand copy of this from a 9.2. I think I about doubled it. I think the current fair market value for a newsstand of this one is in that $500 range. And so I think that one roughly doubled in value, which is pretty good. That's exactly what I try to do with books that I buy. I'm probably not going to flip this one. I think this one is going to try to sit here in the personal collection because, again, if you look at it, you can actually read the title here, The Uncanny, across the top, and it is nice and squared, and you don't have the UPC cut off on the bottom. It's pretty close down there, but it's not fully cut off. And like I said, this one is really hard to find without that miswrap, and so I was very excited for that one. All right, this one is the drum roll, please, here. So this is next up, if they're going in the same order, which they have been. This is the Star Wars number 42, first appearance of Boba Fett, 2.5 copy from CBCS with off-white to white pages. So, and this book was trashed. I can't even begin to describe how many stains and bleaching and color run and foxing. This was a trashed copy. And in the video, I was hoping to maybe get this up to a 4.5. And I said if I got a 5.0, I would be absolutely ecstatic. And so let's check this one on out here with our label. That is a 5.0. So I'm going to just take a moment here and do a little bit of a happy dance. This is my happy dance. I don't dance at all, and I have no coordination, but that's my happy dance. So I said I'd be ecstatic, and I am ecstatic, and you will undoubtedly be able to match this to the before pictures because it still has this staining on the front, and I commented in the other videos that I'll post why I did not push that further. You can see this bleaching down here by Bosk. Now, CGC actually called both this and this damage eraser marks, and so that is a cautionary tale to those of you who are looking at CGC grader notes, especially if you want to lash out and blame your presser for something CGC put in their grader notes. In this case, these are not eraser marks. That was not an eraser mark. That's what they put on the notes, but those were stained and washed out, and they were like that in the original before pictures from the slab before I ever cracked them. And so, don't necessarily take what CGC writes in those notes as law. They have to look at it and make a guess as to how they should describe that to you. And it's not always right because they don't actually know what happened to the book when they got it, right? They're guessing. Just put a book in front of them and they say, I don't know, that looks like an eraser mark. And they put that in the note, all right? But those are the eraser marks that they're talking about. And this book had just an incredible, disgusting amount of discoloration and staining across the back here, and it looks pretty good. I think at a disgusting 2.5, it was going to be a hard stretch for somebody to really want this book, but I'm just such a Star Wars fan and a Boba Fett fan, I couldn't leave that book sit. So I'm very, 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 very happy to go from a 2.5 to a 5.0. So that is a 2.5 point bump, so 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, so that's five grade levels. So that is pretty epic. All right, this next one coming on up here is a Hulk 340, and this one I bought from My Comic Shop. I like My Comic Shop because they grade things, and they're one of the few places, them and Heritage and a couple of the other big time auction houses, I actually believe their grades. Like on eBay, who knows, right? I could post anything and call it near mint on eBay. But I think My Comic Shop is pretty fair with their raw grading. And in this case, you can see here that this was graded a fine 6.0 copy. And when I got it, it was just disgusting. It looked gross. So we polished this one up, cleared out a lot of foxing. I'll have a video of that. Came in a 9.0. So that is a 3.0 grade. Now, it's true this is not CGC, and My Comic Shop does not grade for CGC, but I trust their grading for the most part, and even if, you know, they were a little bit off, going from a 6.0 fine copy to a 9.0 VFNM copy is pretty rock solid. And so this one I was super stoked about. I actually had a 9.6 copy of this slab that I traded for a really nice appearance of ASM, was 44, 42, whatever the first appearance of the Shocker is. I think it's 44, but that one. So, and I was willing to trade a highly sought after modern for a nice copy of a Silver Age book. It is the newsstand, which was also pretty cool. It's one of the reasons why I bought this off their webpage, and I'm really happy that that one turned out. Okay, now coming on up here, oh, let me see here. Never mind. This one is a Captain America number 323. This one I bought raw at a local shop. It was in their reader bucket because it had a lot of issues. It had moisture damage. It clearly had water damage. Some of the gloss was removed. And this thing just needed a ridiculous solid dry clean, a couple of Top Comic tricks, and a little bit of blue LED whitening, and then a press. And look at that, 9.4 is a true near mint copy, white pages, and I'll be very excited to show the video of all of the work and steps that went into making what was a pretty trashed copy of this book. I'm assuming it would have graded in that 5 to 6 range at CGC before the work, all the way to 9.4 copy. And big part of that is exactly what I did on the New Mutants 98 issue, which was to kind of reactivate some of the gloss that had been kind of scratched up and buffed over. And so that one turned out really nice. So stay tuned. I will post a video of that as we go through. So that one will be really good. Now, this one coming on up here is a little bit of a controversy. So if you've watched my prior unboxing video from CGC, I was absolutely dumbfounded and shocked that my Vengeance of Bane number 1 received a CGC 9.8 white pages. And the reason I was shocked is because right here, there is a crease on the spine. There was, you can see that there's scuffing along the spine there. There is a pretty big bend and crease up top here, and there's a couple of other issues. And so at the time, I thought that they had mixed this up with a copy of Batman 386. And the reason for that is my Batman 386 received a 9.2 grade, which I thought was more appropriate for this copy of Vengeance of Bane. So this thing looked to me to be just a little too warm. I actually, honestly, all truth behold, swear on my grandma's grave, did not think I should send this Vengeance of Bane. I threw it in at the last minute because I had 9 books, and you know the shipping breaks at 10. So if you're new to CGC, you're best off submitting 5, 10, 15, 20, or 25 books. And I personally either do 10 moderns or I do 25 pre-screens. I don't really, you know, once the pile gets up to 10 moderns, I send them. And if I'm doing a pre-screen, I wait until I get 25 because that's the minimum for a 9.8 pre-screen. Anyway, long story short, I had 9 books and I wanted to send them out. And so I just threw this one out of my box and I was expecting it to come back about a 9.2. And so I was genuinely dumbfounded when it came back in 9.8 because I called out what the defects were. Like if you go back and watch the unboxing video, like I'm opening it up and going, holy cow, this is a 9.8. I can't believe that. Here are all the defects because I remembered where they were. Anyway, I thought that they had mixed that up with my Batman 386. And this one I also cracked on camera, so you can go back and find a prior video of that. And that thing looked immaculate. It looked perfect, and I could not see anything that would justify a 9.2 grade. So I cracked it on out, and I sent it, and lo and behold, what does it come back at? Ba-boom, 9.8. Same book. It was in the prior unboxing. You watched me crack it in one of the other videos. I honest to God didn't even repress this thing. I just took it out of its slab, said it still looks like a 9.8 to me, put it in a new Mylar and sent it back to CGC. And so this book, if there's anything in this box to try to convince you that while CGC on average does a good job, and certainly for those big Silver Age books that are being sent through walkthrough, they're much closer spot on with their grading. But in the modern grading tier, there is flexibility I think in this case, they honestly screwed up. Now, you might ask me, is it unethical to keep this one in a 9.8 slab if I think it's not a 9.8? I would say no. This is a CGC graded 9.8. If I go look at my submission history, it shows a 9.8 grade on this. I haven't tampered with the case. I didn't change out the label. You watched me unbox it. CGC gave this book a 9.8 grade. So if I sell this to somebody as a CGC graded 9.8, that's what it is. Now, you might ask, is that fair? Well, the opposite is certainly not fair. If I would have taken this as a 9.2 and tried to sell it to somebody as a 9.8, what would you have done? You'd have laughed me off of Instagram or Facebook, right? If I post this as a 9.2 and say, oh, don't worry, if you resubmit it, it'll be a 9.8, like nobody's going to pay a 9.8 price for that. So that hammer swings both ways, in my opinion. Anyway, so this one I resubmitted 9.8. And this to me is not anything I did. This is uncertainty in the CGC grades. This is, just inaccuracy in their system. They go through so many books a day, eventually they're going to screw one up. And so if you're worried about this happening to you, my advice is watch all of my pre-screen videos and look for the defects on your book. So part of the reason I'm putting those pre-screen videos up there is to try to help you all learn how to grade your own books so that you can be more proficient, so that when you get back a 9.2 on a book like this, you can say, no, CGC, that one should have been a 9.8. Let me send it back in. This book actually, I think, is a true 9.8. All right, that's me off my soapbox. This is not looking good. All right, so this next book, I'm going to have to put my tail between my legs because it looks like CGC is going to slap my hands here. This was a prior CBCS 8.5 graded copy of Amazing Spider-Man 238, and it was incomplete without the tattoo insert. And I sent it back to CGC thinking I would get about a 9.2 after putting the insert back in. I'm pretty sure my grade estimate, and go back and look at the prior videos again, was a 9.2, and I was just absolutely dumbfounded that it came back an 8. And I looked it over and I cracked it out and I re-examined it, and I could not for the life of me see a reason why this should be an 8.0 book. And I really honestly don't think it should have been. So I cracked it back on out. Now, the good news is I was right about the grade. The bad news is they have now labeled this as married insert, which, to be perfectly honest, it was. But you can tell, if we want to go back again to their uncertainty and how random the grades can be, it was a prior 8.0. I didn't press it again. I just flat out resent it. It was a blue label 8.0. It got a huge grade bump. So the difference between 8.0 and a 9.4 again is 8.5, 9.0, 9.2, 9.4. That's 4 grade levels higher. So, my 9.2 grade was spot on. Something, though, must have made them feel that all of a sudden this is a married insert. I think what made them realize or think that this one is a married insert is that the next copy here also got nailed for a married insert. Now this one was a prior 9.2 grade. You can tell, I could tell them apart based on the one was a direct and one was a newsstand, so that's how I was telling them apart. This one said tattoo missing from insert, so I actually pulled the whole insert out and swapped the tattoos in because somehow the insert was glued shut. I don't know how that happened. This sucks. So obviously, with them being called out as married insert and green label, these things are just as good as without their inserts in them, and they're at like 40% value, which kind of blows, to be honest. So I'm actually going to take this one and going to crack it out and send it again, and we're going to see what happens. I'm going to do something a little bit sneaky because, I posted the video of me complaining or bragging about doing the 8.5 to 8.0 tattoo swap. So that cat's kind of out of the bag, but I'm going to take somebody, I'm going to put this one on somebody else's account. So we're going to see if I submit it on a stranger's account, how that goes. Because honestly, I don't think that there's any tell on this one. On this one, I'm going to have to look up. I really struggled to get the staple back in on this one. And, it might be possible that I caused some damage up there by the staple. And that's what they did. It doesn't look that bad, though. It doesn't look... I got the insert in there pretty well, I thought. Well, clearly not well enough because they dinged them both as married inserts. But so, anyway. This story is not over. We will see. super disappointed in that. All right, last one up here was my Vengeance of Bane for this one. So I threw the Vengeance of Bane in last one. When I got up to 9, I just picked something and chucked it in. In this case, I chose a Daredevil 181 that I just kind of had on my shelf. This was a 9.8 pre-screen reject, and I think somewhere between when I had sent it as a reject and it came back, and when I had sent it, it accumulated a spine tick. So that one there, and there's actually one down here. So I clearly didn't do a good enough job reevaluating this. Anyway, Daredevil 181, 9.4 near min. It's a super nice looking copy, but this was my, I just need to fill in a last thing there. All right, so let's recap here. This all in all, I think was an incredible submission. I'm super excited about all of these. So this one was my who cares, I just need to fill in a last slot. I think the real downer in this one was these two. Now, the good news is both these grades I think are slightly more accurate. You know, it was a prior 9.2 qualified, and I got it up to 9.4, so at least that's a little bit of a pat on my back. I think I was able to confirm that this 8.0 grade was complete BS on the prior submission, and so whoever graded that submission did not do a good job. But you know, those are the dice you roll, right? It kind of sucks that CGC makes you pay $25 a lottery ticket. And if you don't believe me on that one, you can believe me on this one, because this one is straight up the same book, going from a 9.2 to a 9.8. Didn't even repress it, just resent it. So there we go. And I think that's because they mixed it up with this one, which is what I called out in the last video. These now, if we're going back to the Top Comics Fun, I've got videos on these with the process, so that's super cool. This one was like in real rough shape, and so getting a 9.4 on that is epically exciting. This one is just always so popular, and I'm excited to be able to add this one back to my PC. Especially because it was previously graded a 6.0, so that was huge. This, I think, is just the miracle transformation of the night. So you might look at it and say, dude, nobody cares about a 5.0 modern, especially because this book is hardcore cooled off since the Mandalorian and the Book of Fett. But man, if you see the pictures, I totally did this one for the pictures. It looks awesome. All right, so that was pretty sweet. This one I'm also excited about here. We've gone from a 9.2 to a 9.6 on a first appearance of Gambit newsstand. Beautiful cut, very difficult to find, so that's very awesome. I think this might be the biggest bump of the night, if we're counting grade tiers, was going from a 7.5 to a 9.6 here in the Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man. Very awesome. And I know that people were quite skeptical when I posted that I was going to bust this 9.6 out to try to go for the 9.8. That was a bold move, and it paid off. And so there we go. Every now and again, it is worth rolling those dice. It doesn't always work out that way, but when it does, it can be a big deal. And so this one, I think, is now the most valuable book in the stack, coming in at a 9.8. Last time I checked, that one was about $650 or $700-ish. And it's just really cool, because who didn't love that cartoon as a kid? So there you go. Anyway, thank you for watching Top Comics Pressing. I said it at the beginning, I'll say it at the end, just that little subscribe button. It's right there. It's right there. Just click it. Just click it for me, please. Just click that subscribe button. All right. Take care, everybody.